How are you guys doing? Today we're going to talk a bit about blocking, and then I might show you guys some examples. What's a good blocking? But feel free to ask me any questions regarding blocking, and we can go from there. Is anyone like in advanced animation or from CG Spectrum? Alright, I might wait for 2 minutes and then start this, so people can join in. Do any one of you guys have a hard time blocking? Alright, so today we'll clarify all of that. So it need a bit of planning, and once you guys have a clear idea, then I think you guys will have fun blocking. Actually, in posing. Okay, I can answer that question, but let's jump into what is blocking. So I'll just first go through what I have, notes, and then I'll jump into the Q&A, and you guys can ask me questions. So it's like all in one flow. So what is blocking? Blocking is to show a clear direction of where you're intended to go with the shot. Try to keep it minimal controls with maximum effect. Keep it simple and sell your idea, which is pretty straightforward. So you want to make sure that whatever the idea you have regarding a shot, whether that's a dialogue or pantomime or a physical shot, you want to first sell your idea. What is the main thing happening in that shot? And keep it simple, and try to keep it to the minimal controls. Like, what is the biggest control that's moving, right? So if it is root in a body, if you're doing a torso animation, then the biggest would be probably the chest and the head. So select minimal controls and get the maximum effect of it, so you're not overwhelmed with too many controls and too many curves. And things to consider when blocking a shot is, what is the most important part of the scene? How does the shot serve the story? Where can I provide a resting point for audience? Is there a place, show, thought process, and the status? So what is the most important part of the scene is, does that scene, whatever the props, for example, if a scene has a prop, so is that prop really useful, or does it play an important role with what you're trying to convey through the shot? That's important. And how does the shot serve the story? So even if you're doing your personal scene, make sure that the shot you have like a backstory, because you're creating this shot by yourself. So you think about where this character is coming from, what's the story character's background, and how did this character end up in this specific shot, right? So if you're working for a company or in the industry, then they have already planned things out. But if you're working on your personal shot, that's a good way to ask yourself, where where the character is coming from, the character's personality, and what is why the character is in this shot, and the backstory. Where can I provide a resting point for the audience? So when you have things moving constantly on the screen, then it's pretty overwhelming and too much happening on the screen. So always think about those resting points so that the audience can kind of digest what they just see. So yeah, having that room to breathe is important, and yeah, provide a resting point for the audience so they know what's happening in the shot. Is there a place to show thought process? So thought process is a good way to break the shot from what I said, like giving that resting point. So in that sense, you can see like if the character, if it is necessary though, what the character is doing, and the thought process before or after the specific action. So yeah, and the status of the shot. So in a specific shot, let's say I think last week we were doing critique for one of the CG Spectrum's TAs, and there is like a T-Rex and a bear animation that we were going through. So in that shot, what is the status of each character, right? So does the bear has the high status, or the T-Rex or the raptor has the high status is important. So, and if you're doing a dialogue, and if you're doing two-person dialogue, and think about the backstory of each character and who has the high status. So based on that, you might want to frame your shot and stage it in a way that you're showcasing that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it to consider when you're blocking. Steps to animate a scene. These are very important because this actually kind of showcase like how well you have planned and start blocking. So visualize and imagine the scene beforehand. So for example, if you thought about a shot, so kind of visualizing it beforehand, it kind of helps you to lay out the shot and do some thumbnail sketches and find some references. So yeah, visualizing is important, and because you've visualized it, then we go to the second point of thumbnail sketches and reference supporting the shot. If you're not good at drawing, gather reference pictures. So yeah, where the shot is, what kind of props or costume, background, staging, everything is important. So staging and posing your character in the blocking stage is very important, because you need to know where this character is. You can't just pose the character in a blank space. Make sure that your environment and your props are complementing the shot. And time out key poses and timeline. This is good for the pose-to-pose animators. Make sure that your key poses are timed out well, that is conveying what you want to say. Break down action by creative, well thought. Break down poses between the key poses. Polish timing by smoothing out the curves in the graph editor. Work methodically through the character's entire body. So like as I said, the biggest move first, and if you're working on the root, either you can work your way up or down. So if you're working from the root up, then that would be spine, then the chest, then neck, then head. Yeah. Then the biggest move first. If the root is not moving much, try looking for the biggest movement and base it off that. So as I said, if root is not doing much, and if a person is just sitting on the couch, right? So what is the biggest move? It would be your torso, so the spine, chest, and root and head, or the neck and head. So those will do a lot of movements, and then your arms. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So visualizing it, thumbnail sketches and gathering references, staging and posing your character, timing out your key poses, break down poses between the key poses, polish the timing, work methodically, and the biggest moves first. So blocking means the big moves in a shot. Yes, blocking means pretty much you're trying to convey what you're trying to tell the audience. So yeah, whatever the poses that can showcase like what your shot is, you want to block that out first, and then you worry about the timing later. In my sketches, do I need to draw details because I can't draw? No, you don't need any details, Hoy. Just make sure that your sketches are like kind of staging. So even you can do stick figures, but make sure that like, oh, there's a table here and there's a character here, and whether the character is standing, sitting, or doing whatever. So just so that you can understand, so you plan out things better. So, all right. General animation hierarchies. So the hierarchies in when you're actually blocking out a shot would be your root, torso, neck, head, feet, legs, shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers, which is pretty straightforward. Any questions before I move on to the blocking style? There are different types of blocking styles, so it's good to know so you can find your way to see what works best for you. If you guys kind of visualize and imagine a shot before, it's way more easier, and then gathering references and like things will make it well planned out shot. So which I think we spoke last week about planning. So yeah, that flows into blocking, because if your planning is strong, then your blocking is pretty much trying to lay the bricks down. Cool. All right, if no questions, then I will move on to the blocking style. Line of action is important in every pose of blocking. Yes. I mean, pretty much you want to pay attention to the strong poses. So when you're blocking, your character has to hit the strong poses. So through that, your line of action does play a big role, because you don't want to just have the character just stand there, right? So what is the torso doing with the legs, and how the flow is going with the posing is very important. I did that when I started animating Amy, but animation failed. What did you try, Hoy? That started animating Amy, but animation failed. I didn't get that. Yeah, we'll talk more about what you can do in your blocking with the blocking styles, because there are 3 different types of workflow. So that will give you guys a better understanding of where you can take that extra step. I think it failed because I'm just a beginner. Yeah, don't worry about it. I saw the email from you. You're gonna start next week, I suppose, with me. So you're gonna learn stuff, so don't worry about it. Don't jump into deep end. Just take small steps. First learn the principles, and then move on to the advanced stuff. I didn't get the poses right. Yeah, the best way for you guys to practice posing, like good strong posing, is to do gesture drawings. So when you're actually trying to practice gesture drawings, you develop an eye for observation, so you know like what the character is doing and where the weight of the character falls, and the negative space between the arms or the pose. So you want the silhouette to be as strong as possible. So gesture drawings is a good way to start. Any questions before I move to blocking style? Lip sync first or blocking first? Blocking first. So if you have a dialogue shot, so make sure that your body is well blocked out before even you go into the facial. So just get the basic movement right and then go to the facial later on. Some people like to do facial first and then do the body, but if you're doing like a torso up, the biggest move is again your body, then your lip. So you want to just like first block out that and then jump into the facial, then you can jump back in doing your or the splining out. Because when you're blocking your shot, you're basically blocking with the energy of the shot, right? So with what you block and the energy, the lip sync falls in place. So then you can put in like basic facial expressions and then go ahead and do all the phonemes and stuff. Should I animate the details together with the poses, or should I first focus on the poses? First, focus on the poses. Like I said, key poses are very important before even you jump into the details. Because I think that's what I did wrong. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, that's what you did wrong, because if you don't have strong poses, then you get caught up in just like details, and that will really frustrate you by the time you try to finish the shot. So planning is important, and then blocking, because whatever you have planned, you're trying to implement that, and blocking is this, it's almost like you're building a house with strong foundation. So yeah, strong poses are very important before you get caught up with the details. Alright, so let me talk about the blocking styles, then you guys might have more questions. So there are 3 types of blocking styles, or like the workflow style, which is straight ahead, pose to pose. So pose to pose, emphasis on posing, and then layered animation, which is emphasized on timing. So straight ahead, more spontaneous, improvisation, and great for physical shots. Poses potentially weaker, requires a lot more approval from the director, timing usually more fresh. So straight ahead basically means you have your key pose, but you don't know what's your end pose is. So you're kind of sculpting your way to how the shot's gonna end, but you're mainly focusing on the timing, and the poses are very rough because it's basically the motion is what you're focusing on, and then the timing. So how the character is going from A to B pose, or from start to end, and you're just like working through it. And sometimes not all the directors understand straight ahead, so they might be a bit confused because they're not seeing really strong poses right off the bat. But if you can talk to them and explain them what you're trying to do with the shot, that gives them a good understanding. Yeah, so straight ahead is more spontaneous and improvisation, and great for physical shots because you're basically doing really rough blocking to just get the timing right. Yeah, so a lot of the times you're playing with the biggest movement of the body, like the root and where the character is going from A to B to C pose, so all that. And pose to pose is think about the design more, potentially less spontaneous, well planned out with key poses. Good approach for 2D animators. Pose can be timed out easier. So pose to pose is pretty straightforward. You're blocking of the key poses and then you go for your in-betweens. So you're thinking more about the design. So pose to pose is basically you know what each pose is from start to the end. So you have a first pose and the end pose, and then you have all the in-between. It's really good for 2D animators or more analytical thinking people because you guys can see what is happening without too spontaneous stuff. Like, so you have all your key poses with strong posing. So yeah. And the last one is layered, which is straight ahead and layered is one of my favorites. I'm not so much into pose to pose, but I do kind of use that, which I'll talk in the end. So layered is sometimes hard to understand where animator is going in the beginning stages. Body parts have more potential to feel disconnected. Good approach for characters with a lot of legs, like octopus, like one from the Finding Dory. I think it's the octopus named Hank. So that character is really good for layered animation because Hank has a lot of limbs. Good method for figuring out physicality or action scenes. So basically layered and straight ahead kind of similar, but in layered you kind of layering in the animation, so you're doing the biggest move and then you put in another layer, your legs, or you could group your entire body and move it. So like if you're doing a Spider-Man shot or any physical shots, an action scene, you can use this method. And the last one, it's totally okay to mix all these. So the one best way at least the one that I prefer doing is mixing up the layered animation with pose to pose. So which means work for strong poses, flesh out the details you want to sell, keep it simple, don't put too many keys in. You can combine workflows into whatever works for you or the shot you're working on. It's important to sell your idea with your timing when blocking. The timing should be the same throughout the animation process. So basically what I do is sometimes, usually I am a layered animator, but some of the physical shots I try to move the character, get the timing right, and then I go ahead and put my key poses in. So that's where the layered and pose to pose come hand in hand, because first I'm seeing the timing right, and then I'm going and putting in my key poses and getting my in-betweens and the posing strong poses. So yeah. So the workflow for getting your shot done would be blocking plus, in progress, which is IP, and fixes, and then the final polish. So that concludes the blocking. Any questions? How many animators are there on this live chat right now? Thanks, Keisha. Leaf, do you block one character at a time if you have multiple? Yes, of course. You have to, I mean, you can stage all the characters first, and then first block out one character, and then you block out the other one, and make sure that the eye lines are matching if they're looking at each other. And then you go ahead and go for IP, or like spline things out with each character separately again. So, yeah. Let me look into some examples. I'm currently in one of your classes at CG Spectrum. Burger Sloth. Oh, cool. Did you start? What class are you in? Okay, I'll show you guys like some examples, and then we can talk about that. I'm Tom from your Monday session. Hey, Tom. Cool. All right. So, Tom, you can apply this onto your basic, whatever you're doing right now with the flower sack assignments, right? So it's the same principle, whether it's bouncing ball, whether it's flower sack, or even sit to stand. So why are you doing a sit to stand, right? So I always ask my students to think about, if you're going to do a basic sit to stand or stand to sit, think about what you're doing with the character. Why is this? What is the purpose of the character sitting down? Did he just come from an interview and sitting, or did he get a coffee and then sitting at a coffee table? Why is he sitting and standing? So there are like tons of ways to do sit to stand. Like if he's at the bus stop, he's waiting for the bus, so then he stands. There's a purpose why he's standing, right? So then you're kind of pushing that exercise to like not just like basic sit to stand, but there's a purpose why the character is standing. So definitely you can apply that. What is obvious when you animate pose to pose and you watch how it looks? The hands are going sometimes through the body, then it will be messy to fix it. Do you have some advice to prevent that? Well, when your hands or arms are going through your body, which means your posing is not strong enough. So sometimes when you spline it out, they do go in, then you have to go ahead and put in those in between poses to make sure that your arms are in place. So what I would say is have a good strong poses, and then have your in-betweens planned out in a way that things are flowing in from A to B pose smoothly. So that's all I can think. If you're doing straight ahead, it's very natural to have kind of things all over the place or like layered. But if you know the timing is right, then you know that like as you're working with the shot, you can fix things. But if you're going with pose to pose, then you want to make sure that no intersection or penetration of the arms through the body. Does this make sense, guys? About the blocking styles and blocking in overall? So we can talk about a specific shot. Hold up. Cool, thanks, Leaf. Sounds good. All right. I'm trying to share. I can't share this. You guys can ask more questions by the time I figure this out. Alright, what I'm gonna do is I'll just have share screen share. Alright. Can you guys see my screen? So this is a shot, one of my students' shots. So this is a good example for blocking and what to keep in mind. Can only still see the blocking notes? Okay, hold up. All right, how about now? Okay, perfect. All right, so this is a shot like one of my students did. She's trying to, it's a pantomime shot, and this lady is trying to read a novel or a book, whatever that is, and she gets frustrated and then throws the book down, and then she reaches out to the book again and looks at it, rolls her eyes. She's like, I can't believe it. That's basically, she didn't like the way the story ended in the book, and she's a bit frustrated about it, and then she's like pretty much giving up in the end. So that's basically a plot of that shot. So right here, the first biggest thing for the staging and for blocking the shot is the shot is very frontal, like not much happening. So the bed is facing us, the character is facing us pretty straight on, and she's so much in center of the scene. So here the staging has to be needs some changes. So to make it more interesting, if you have a little bit of 3/4 of the angle where you're kind of seeing a bit of the bed and 3/4 of the character, to a point where, yeah, the rule of thirds, like you're trying to kind of pose the character more well staged. So yeah, and then two, yeah, right here is very symmetrical, so it's not so interesting because of, like, you don't see the weight of the hips falling on the knee, on the foot. So, and the arm seems to be very much symmetrical, and it's not like posed well, that it's not creating that interesting a line of action. So yeah, so a lot of things to pay attention to, and this is something you don't want to do. And after a couple of notes, she did make some changes. I'll show you guys where it is. But overall, in this shot, the things are working, and the timing can be slightly better, especially when she's trying to throw the book, and then the posing. So that's what you want to get. Your poses have to be pretty strong, like right off the bat. This is like the starting pose, right? So in your blocking, you want to pose your like fingers and arms and everything. So basically this will be your thumbnail for your shot. Yeah, so let me open up where she's at with the shot right now, so we get a better idea. So this is where she is with the shot. I mean, we are still working on the staging, where because the character is facing to the screen right, you want to have more negative space onto your screen right than to the left. So probably if she moved the character somewhere here, makes sense. And now the overall staging of the bed seems a bit more interesting compared to the previous, where it's very front on. And yeah, and now she got some finger poses and arms posed out to a point where she's reading a book, and then she takes a take, slams the book down, and reaches out for the book again. That's the end. So she's still working on this, but overall I feel like the energy of the shot can be pushed a lot more. And yeah, timing, energy, and then poses. Still like a lot of strong poses. For example, right here, when she's doing this, what is your arm, the screen right arm, your left arm doing is important, because it just seems like it's coming out of the chest, so you want to see that silhouette properly. If you can see a little bit of that upper arm, that would make it, well, it's interesting posing. So yeah. I like that at least she did that room for thought process right here. After she slams the book, she gave that room to breathe, like as I said, the resting point for audience, so they understand what she's going through. And then she takes her time, looks at the book, and then she reaches for the book. So overall, there is a good spread of the time, the energy, where like she's taking her time before she does another big move. So yeah. It's really cool how much the camera angle changed the feeling of the shot. Absolutely, because you don't want it to look too frontal. You do want to project the character has to project in the shot, but having that little bit of that 3/4 angle creates a little more rounded feel than having it very 2D effect. If you choose something side or front, it looks very 2D. So 3D itself is rigid enough. We want to make it more organic. So having a bit of that camera angle change helps it. Will animating in stepped tangents get you similar result as in traditional animation? Yes, pretty much. So in traditional, if you're going to draw the key poses, so make sure that you're working on twos if you're going with the stepped. So have the step tangents and then pose out your key breakdowns and then in betweens. Could she push the arm behind the body and add more of a twist for more impact? Yeah, absolutely. She has a lot of work to do, but we're not here to give her more notes, but basically it's like an example to show where she took her blocking to like splitting out and what things we need to keep in mind while we are blocking and flushing out the shot. Animating, let's say on twos in step mode, give the same result as 2D key animated keys? Yes, it does. I'm stuck in the spine movement of the body. Okay, so what is that you're stuck, Keshav? Like, you're not able to, is it like too overwhelming but there are a lot of spines, or what is that is making it harder? That would means of animating in step tangent, I would have to do more and more and have keyframes on every control. Can you talk about animating between Ikf blending? Yes. Yeah, to answer your first question, yes, you would need more and more in between poses and have keyframes on kind of, like as I said, not on every control. When you're blocking, at least you need to have the biggest controls, like main controls. Keep it simple, like you don't want to overwhelm yourself and then not know from, like if you're progressing forward, you do want to keep it simple, then when you're splining it out, that's when you can add, like, pretty much keyframe every single control on the character, which is to keep alive. And then talk a bit animating between IK and FK blends. So basically, as a student, IK FK blends, it's important and it is a bit of work, but once you get into the industry, the IK blends and IK FK blends get easier with some tools, and constraints gets easier. So the best way to explain the IK and FK blends are, make sure that when you're switching from FK to IK, your pose is supposed to match, and then have at least 2 to 3 keys after that. Like, so if you have if your FK is starting at frame 5, so 6, 7, 8. At frame 8, you can have your IK blend. So what happens is both the poses have to match, and the blend between the Maya automatically is going to do that smooth blend because you're giving that buffer in between. So sometimes it varies. You can do it in one keyframe switch, but it needs a lot more exact matching. But if you give a buffer of 2 to 3 frames, you can have it more smoothed out blend, if that makes sense. I am stuck in the spine movement of the body because of line of action. I've pushed my character sometimes. I see. Okay. I think I know what you're talking about. So you're trying to exaggerate the poses. So, okay, I would tell you first, focus on the basic pose. Don't go too cartoony and like exaggerate. So first get the basic, like what would a human do if it's a biped character, what is the character doing naturally? And then once you get that blocked out and you have a basic pose, then you can actually push that to exaggerate it. But from the initial, if you're overthinking about it and pushing the poses, then you might end up overwhelming yourself when you actually want to push the character. So yeah. And to talk about the spine that the spine movement that you're having difficult with, is I would say focus on first the root, because your COG is the biggest move that would drive the spine, right? So spine itself can't move. If it does, then it's just a puppet that it has like a base, a wooden base, and then you know those dolls that move just from the torso up, it'll just look like that. So even if you're not seeing your root or the COG, make sure that there is a slight movement, because your COG affects your spine. And when you're working out with your spine controls, make sure you animate the first biggest control, that's the bottom one, and then work your way up. And to keep it more simple through the blocking, if you have three spine controls, animate the bottom one and the top one, which is the top would be almost near to the chest, and then the bottom one is closer to the COG. So then you're basically taking the curve that from the COG and pasting up to the spine, base of the spine, and then the base of the spine control, you offset it 2 frames, and then you copy that to the top of the spine, the first spine, and then you offset that. So which means basically it is kind of mimicking what the root is doing or the COG is doing, and you're getting free animation halfway with that, but then the timing is offset, so when the root moves, your spine is kind of overlap or like following through the root. Thanks. Yes, it made sense. Can you demonstrate Ikf Blend in this stream, or if not, upcoming stream? Absolutely. Not today, but next week or next stream or the upcoming streams, I will try to show you guys. It's very simple. Just you need to make sure that the IK and FK, the poses when you go from IK FK has to match pretty much. And either you can do with the grease pencil, make sure that the silhouette of the arm is matching from the IK and FK, or you could use, I don't know, any other tools that can make that process easier. You're welcome, Keshav. All right. How are we with time? We have another hour, so I can actually go ahead and maybe next week I'll be doing the elephant animation that we have paused because of my move. So we could either do that for the rest of the hour, or if you guys have more questions or concerns about anything, I can talk about that. Or if you guys have any blocked out shots that you want me to look at, you can send it my way and we can open that. I hope this blocking makes sense and it's informative. Just let me know if I can add something to this. Let me see if I can open some other shots. Okay, I'm going to show you guys another shot. So this one is one of my other students for Acting 2 class, where basically you'll be working on a monologue, one-person dialogue. So she hasn't finished the shot, but basically it's a good example for storyboard or like thumbnail sketches, and then going from blocking and then splining out, or the blocking plus. So basically this is a dialogue, like he's saying dirt, this is a jar of dirt, and then off screen the lady says yes, and then he says, is this jar of dirt going to help? And the lady says, if you don't want it, give it back. And then he's like, no. So basically here the student, she's trying to convey that the jar of dirt is the puppy or the kitten that pretty much rolled in mud. So he's like kind of implying to this kitten as jar of dirt. So yeah, it's very simple. There's not too crazy like drawings going on here. So it's basically character with the kitten, and then what is the thought process here, and what's going on his mind, and how does he end up, what's the conclusion, what does he want to do with it, right? So first you want to do your planning, select your character, and when you select your character, make sure that you test out the rigs, because you don't want to get frustrated once you jump into actually doing a shot. It's very important to open the rig and test and see that what controllers you use the most, and do this character have those controls like IKFK switches, and if the spine has all the controls that you're looking for, and does it have hip control and any kind of how do you say, blends that between the arms to give that extra shapes. So all that, like, make sure that everything is there and test out the rig, and then you jump into it. So this is what she did for her planning. She ended up using I don't know this character's name. This is Amy, and I guess it's Sam, and then this kitten. So this is her blocking.
Dirt. This is a jar of dirt.
Yes.
Is the jar of dirt going to help?
If you don't want it, give it back.
No.
If it helps.
So basically, it's a very simple shot, but there's so much to do in this. For example, when he's saying,
This is a jar of dirt.
this is a jar of dirt. So he's not, if you want to block this shot for this guy, the kitten is doing a lot of movement. So when the kitten is moving, you want to keep it simple on the character. So it's like you're transferring the energy from each person. So if both are moving, that's too overwhelming in the shot, right? So that's where you kind of like spread out what is going to move first, which reflects the other character. So right here,
Yes.
Is the jar of dirt going to help?
is this jar of dirt gonna help? Pretty much here, she could have improved a bit more and play around with him trying to like take a peek at this kitten, rather than having the same pose. Like there's no head change, no torso, nothing. So he's just pretty much in one pose throughout the shot. So that's where you can actually kind of experiment with playing around. You can have the character in place right here, but you do want to have slight movements where you're making the character believable than him being just a statue.
Going to help?
If you don't want it, give it back.
No.
Yeah.
Is the jar of dirt going to help?
If you don't want it, give it back.
No.
Yeah, there's so much room to improvement, but from our previous shot that we've seen, I think this is not even considered blocking, because it's pretty much staging, because your character is in just a pose and not doing much. It's just from A to B. So this is basically staging. So blocking, you pretty much need to get your timing right, your strong key poses right. So till then you can call that as blocking. All right. Any other questions? And two here, I think she or he can play more with the background. So usually I recommend students, like, instead of having actual like set in the background, you can have like a plane and have like an image projecting onto that plane. So your Maya is going to run faster, then it's not going to slow down the shot, and two, it's kind of believable that the character is in the scene, like a certain setup. So that actually it's appealing, and it gives a better staging. Question about the video lecture. Do I receive every week new lessons, and will they be more advanced into the fundamentals? Yes, Hoey. So yeah, you're doing the foundation, right? So first you'll start off with understanding basic tangents, how tangents work, and so you're gonna do drone animation, axe throw, and a race car, like a track. So you're basically playing around with your tangents. You're gonna have like A to B pose, and then how can you play with your weighted tangents or tangents in general to slow in and ease ins and ease outs. Yeah, all that. And then as you advance, you're going to jump into posing. You're going to do lower body walk cycle, full body walk cycle, and the walk with weights. So that's pretty much fundamentals. What about sculpting poses? Changing the silhouette of the posed mesh. What about the sculpting poses? What's... Sorry, I didn't get that, Val. Change for this shot, you're talking about changing the silhouette? For sure, there's so much room to improvement because you do want a little bit of that negative space between these arms, like we see here. And yeah, there's a lot to work on. And the kitten seems very stiff, so having it more relaxed. Okay, the lesson I received are for the next week. Yes. For the first class, you don't have to do anything because you're basically, for the second week, you're going to do the first week's and the second week's assignments. So just show up in the class, introduce yourself to with other students. So that's basically it. So don't get too overwhelmed with like you need to do something. If you want to, you can, but it's not necessary. I'm referring to like correcting blend shapes. Take the arms for example, if I want to give them more flow. Well, in the basic blocking, you don't want to mess with that. You do want to get whatever you can with the rig that is provided. In your spline mode, when you're splining it out, then you can mess with the blend shapes of the character. But yeah, for the arms, like I know what you're talking about, to kind of give that rounded feel, right? Yeah, that you'll be doing in your IP in progress. The arms are symmetrical. That's not right. Yes, absolutely. There are times where your arms will be symmetrical. The best way to do it is to play with the posing with the fingers and the shoulders. So like which side is the weight falling, right? So then you can create a bit of interesting so they don't look super symmetrical. Yeah, here definitely he could have played, and then anytime you're doing a shot where your hands are kind of fixed, you can always like shift the hand poses to kind of create some interesting change in the posing, rather than having the character just hold the cat throughout the posing, just like one pose. that weight shift is very important.
This is a jar of dirt.
Yes.
Is the jar of dirt going to help?
If you want it, deliver.
No.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? I'm gonna end the stream 10 minutes earlier today. So we have another 20 minutes. Next we'll animate, guys, so maybe that will be more fun and interesting, and you guys can see me, like, all these questions that you guys are asking, I can totally show you. But yeah, and we'll just keep it in flow. So we'll finish the elephant, and then the next shot we'll do it'll be either facial, or we can do some combat scene or something. We'll see how I feel about it. Do you guys have any suggestions, like what would you guys want to see? So maybe we can take some suggestions and then I can pick from that. You want to see IKFK? Sure, Val. We'll try to hit that as well. And creature. Cool. So creature, we're basically doing the elephant, right? So we can try and see we can do another different creature, but combat between creatures. We can try that too. I actually don't like creature animation, but we'll see. How many advanced students are on the stream versus the foundation, like just started? Also, I still don't understand the difference between IK and FK. We'll go through that. So the biggest difference between an IK FK, I think I did go through this, Hoy, last week or the before. You're asking again. Well, the only difference is IK, if you're holding a prop or anywhere the hand contacts with another object or the environment, that's when you want to do IK, because FK is basically 3 joints and IK is one joint that can move the entire arm. So when you're actually holding or interacting with the prop, we want it to be an IK, because you don't want to be counter animating the entire upper arm, elbows, and wrist every single time, so that way the IK comes in handy. Inverse kinematic, forward kinematics, the abbreviation, I guess. Yeah, and basically FK, if you're like moving your arms and like saying something, it really gives that fluid motion to actually animate. The biggest move is your upper arm, and then elbow, and then your wrist, so then you get all good overlap animation, which is better, because when you're trying to do with IK, then it looks way more pose to pose in a way that you're always fighting with the elbow and the wrist. So yeah, so there's a purpose why you do need to use FK in certain, like in places where you have to use FK and IK. Well, I'm more foundation. Okay, good to know. Yeah, so that makes sense why you are very much confused with IKFK. Honestly, just interested to see workflows, so anything is good. All right, Tom. So there are, I've done like a shot which is on the CG Spectrum's playlist. If you go to the animation side, I blocked out a shot, an acting shot with facial animation from start to end. So that's a good way to start, but I'll keep doing more shots so that you guys can know what's the workflow and what are the tools I'm using or the scripts that to make the workflow much faster, smoother, and clear. I guess automated. Kinda. Yeah. So next week I'll do my workflow so you guys can see. Yeah, sometimes it's like just saying is different, but like showing it gives more information. So I'm still in the process of settling down, so to animate on one screen is way more difficult, and especially my laptop is a tiny screen, so but we'll do it. Sure. Provide scene files. Not really. Because if any shot that I'm doing on my own, that's my personal shot, so I wouldn't be providing the scenes. So you might want to sit down and just watch the video and follow through it. But if you're going to take CG Spectrum's foundation classes, then all the files are provided with the tutorials, so you can actually follow them at your own pace. So yeah, that would be a good spot for you, Val. Not even with the free rigs online. I mean, I can provide you the rig where you can download it from online, but I cannot provide the rig that I used in the scene because I will be modding the rig. So that would be my shot. So basically, I'm not going to give out my shot to anybody. No worries. All right. Are you going to talk about how to mod the rig? Sure. Maybe I can do that next week. Sure. It's nothing but wrap deformers. It's pretty simple. And you don't want to have too high mesh because that will slow down the shot. So the best way to the reason why I try to mod the characters for any personal shots when you're starting off a student is if you're going to use Amy rig, let's say, if another person uses Amy rig, then what's the specialty of your shot, right? So that's when the modding comes in handy, and either you can change her skin color, you can change her hair. So if you're going to change the hair, then you take out Amy's hair, find another hair online, and then constrain it to the head control. And if you want to change Amy's the clothing, then you can like disconnect or like try to delete all the history on the dress, then take it out and then bring in other costume, and use wrap deformer and wrap it around the skin, because the skin clusters, the paint weights will be the same, but you're just trying to make this cloth pretty much imitate what the skin is doing. So that's where it is. It's pretty simple, but you need to do it in a clean steps, so you're not breaking the rig or the character. I like the advanced mechanic rig CG Spectrum provide, especially the Wood Warrior. Oh, cool. Yeah, so are you just doing the foundation, Hoy, or are you going into advanced as well? Yeah, so, and one other thing with hair, what you could do is, if it's an old man, you just don't have to change the hair color of the old man, but you can like make sure that you take out the top mesh, so you're having like half bald or something, right? So you can play around with that, because let's say you don't have other hair available online, you can use the same mesh, disconnect it, so that you can play around with the deleting the mesh, changing the color, adding in some earrings for female characters, and some necklace. Yeah, you can play around so that you're actually having more authority on that character, like you're creating it for your shot, but you're not using basic rigs, so you can stand out with your demo reel. So if anybody see your demo reel, they remember that, oh, I've never seen this character anywhere else, right? So that's basically it. 3D diploma course. I see. Okay, so then you're there for 24 weeks, I believe. Any other questions, guys? 10 more minutes before I wrap this stream. "24 weeks, okay, perfect. Yeah. Just show up next week and meet other students, Hoy. But if you want to do your first week and you want me to give critique, I could, but usually my first class will be just introduction, just getting to know you guys, what your interests are, whether game, film, and we'll talk about your favorite games and movies, and that's basically it. And I'll run down the entire course, what you will be expecting from day 1 to the 12th week. So yeah, that's basically it. And if any one of you guys are not part of CG Spectrum, you guys can look up, there is I think they do these once a month, kind of run down what the school is about. I think it's called let's see. Oh, it's called Open Day. So Yeah, so in Open Day, they pretty much talk about what the courses are, what CG Spectrum is, and yeah, you guys can like look into it, and if that interests you, you can take the classes, but yeah, that's basically it. But I only get the first term. Do I get the other one when I finish the first term? Yes. I mean, if you want to take the next advanced, you could, but if you're happy with what you are and then need time to put all that into work, you could do that too. But I usually suggest students to learn from starting to advanced in a like all at once, so that you're in the flow and you're learning everything and putting that to work, then taking a break. So yeah. Do you already know how many students are going to attend the lesson? I guess it's 2. There's one other person in your class. Alright, that's it about your course, Hoy. That will be the last question. And we'll talk more about it in the class. Just make sure that you spend your time doing those assignments, because make use of the time, and you're paying for the classes, so give your best. Yeah, and then learn as much as you can and make use of my time, that 1 hour. So yeah. I'm having right now, yeah, Tom's class, burger, what is his thing? Burger slots? Yeah, his class, there are like 3 students, 3 or 4? 4, and all 4 of them like really push themselves. I really like their class. They come with more than what is supposed to be, so 4. Thanks, Tom. Yeah. Yeah, it's like last week we did sit to stand, and every one of them have done, like, push their assignment to the next. It's a very, very good group. Of course, yes. Yeah, I really like that. I like to see students pushing it rather than having just like eye-to-eye basic assignment. Try to go, like, do out of the box, right? So thinking why you're doing that like assignment. So it makes it interesting for me and makes it interesting for you, and you learn more. What is the most challenging thing that you're facing, Tom, while you're like learning those tutorials and putting into work? Honestly, everything has been extremely clear in the lessons. That's good to know. Nice. Yeah, let us know. If things are not clear, we are always there to like do another iteration of that lesson. So yeah, always feedback is important, so we can always improve on our end. And of course, the Q&As are the best part, because if things you didn't get cleared out in the lessons, you always can come to my class and ask. So make use of the Q&As and the tutorials both. if anything comes up, I will be sure to ask. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna end the stream in 2 minutes. Do you guys have any other last questions? If not, I'll wrap it here, and then next week we'll do demo. Thanks, Tom, for joining the stream. Thanks, Hoy. Val, Keshav, Leafy. Who else? Am I missing someone? Thank you, guys. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. And then we'll have some fun doing the creature animation elephant. Alright. I'll be sure they're here next week as well. Have a great week. Thanks, Tom. Alright, so I'm going to... Thanks for the stream, learned a lot. Thanks, Leafy. Alright, I'm going to end it here. Have a great week, guys. And happy animating. I'll see you next week. Bye.